Good evening, everybody. It is 7 p.m. It's Sunday night. It's WOSFL Weekly. I'm your host, Johnny Baillie, and tonight I'm delighted to be joined by the Bellshill manager, Johnny Fallon. A couple of Johnnies in the screen. We'll keep that. We'll not make any jokes about that, though. Johnny, how are you, mate? You well?
I'm very well, thanks. And you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to have one. I've said in the show a few times about Bellshill not being a club that I'm overly familiar with, so when PG put us in touch and said you were up for coming on the show, then I was more than delighted to get you on. So looking forward to catching up about all things Bellshill as we go through the show. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, remember we are live. So any questions, any comments, any opinions on your team's game over the weekend, then please get in touch. Let us know what you thought. How's your start to the season been? Are you worried? Are you delighted? Etc. etc. If you're watching, please hit the like button on YouTube. Do us a favour. It takes 2 seconds. Hit that like button and subscribe to the Pyramid Promotions YouTube channel. There you'll get all the added content that the guys have putting out. The Premiership show, the WOSFL build-up will be on there as well. And you can rewatch the Saturday Live as well. And if you want, you can see me taking shots for Alan McCluskey in the last hour of Saturday Football Live, which was class, if you manage to see it. But please support the channel if you can. If you want to support us even more, you can do so by becoming a member, and it does cost a lot of money, but it's very much appreciated. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Roxburgh Insurance Brokers. If you're needing any insurance needs, then please get in touch with the guys at Roxburgh and they will sort you out. Also, VSN Sport, Gary and the team at VSN will sort your club out with any bespoke teamwear that you need for the season. His number is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And finally, GLA Chauffeurs. If you're needing any executive travel, transfers, trips, etc., then get in touch with the guys at GLA Chauffeurs and they will sort you out with some top quality travel for whatever you're needing. Okay, Johnny, we'll start in the Premier League. I suppose looking at the Premier League, we'll start. I feel like every week I'm talking about Auchinleck. Like it's people must be sick to the back teeth of listening to me talk about Auchinleck. But I was there yesterday. I went to the game, top of the table clash, and it was an absolute cracker. What I would say, despite the scoreline, it was a great advert for the level. You know, it was just there was a great crowd. Obviously, the sun was shining, which helped, but the crowd was good. The atmosphere was great. My wee man was running about daft. I didn't have to worry about him. The welcome you get for the guys at Troon is always top draw. The football on show was brilliant, and Auchinleck run out 5-2 winners. It's an unbelievable start to the season they've had.
They've been unbelievable. You know, just a well-oiled machine, it seems again. That, you know, kind of even when they go through a blip, it's not really a blip. They finish second or third. You know, that way. It's not as if, you know, their blip's a relegation fight. They're always up and thereabouts. I think when you look at the rest of the table, you've got maybe a few at the bottom. They just look like they can blow anybody away, and the rest will be kind of up and down and kind of results throughout the season. That's it. Well, again, it's early days. You know, you don't want to get too carried away about certain things. Our teams kind of write them off early, but I think you can see that they're just all super fit, but they can play as well. You know what I mean? It's like they just keep running and running and running. And kind of I've watched back. Obviously, we played Atherley last week, so I kind of watched back the highlights and the video of their game against Atherley. It's just the same. They're just relentless. Wave after wave of attack. So I think it'll be a good team that stop them lifting the title this year.
I think so. I think you're right. Relentless is a good word to use. It's a word we used previously with previous iterations of Tommy Sloan's teams. Craig's just saying in the chat there, great result. Opening 20 minutes was fairly even, which it was. Troon actually took the lead. Lewis Lovering scored a header from a set piece, and then once Talbot equalised, they're scoring really good goals as well, though, Johnny. Like Kyle McAvoy, it's really hard to describe on audio form, but if you get the chance, dig out the Auchinleck highlights on YouTube and watch Kyle McAvoy's finish. But he's about 20 yards for goal. and he takes his touch with his back foot, his left foot's his back foot. He takes his touch with his back foot on the half turn, and then in the same motion, he strikes it with his right foot, really clean into the bottom corner. As a defender, there's very little you can do. Goalie gets caught on the hop because he's taking it so early, but it was just a really, really good finish. Obviously, the headlines will go to Connor Boyd getting a hat trick, and but me personally, I thought Luke Main in the centre of the park. I think he looks as if he's going to be a top draw signing for them. He's a quality player, isn't he?
And it's probably one they weren't thinking about either. It's probably just came up, one of the ones that just come up. I think it was just the week before the season started. My son, he plays for East Kilbride's under 18s. So you kind of catch a bit of the training and keep an eye on their games and things like that as well. But it was very much last minute, I think, that I'm going in. So I think at that point in time, when that sort of quality comes up and you can get it in the door, as we've done this week ourselves, then yeah, absolutely, you go and get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Mike Cameron's just mentioning there that Troon went ahead, and they actually did have a really good chance to make it 2 each. Lewis Lovren get in behind, and maybe should have scored. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I was right down the very end, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh. But if it goes 2-0, it's a different game. But then that's football, isn't it? He's saying he didn't think it was a red card for Callum Gow. Again, I was quite far away, but I think the big man get kind of sold short a wee bit by a shot throw in. And he's just got there a second too late, and it was the boy was kind of clean through. And then I think it's one of those ones where I think 10 years ago he probably doesn't get red carded, but nowadays I think referees
I can't keep up with the rules.
referees are delighted to get the looks as if some of them are delighted to get the red card out as soon as they can. But Johnny, just touching on Troon, so Troon have had a really, really good start to the season. They've obviously taken a wee bit of a sore one there. How do you go as a manager? How do you go about making sure that you bounce back from that?
I think they've just got to try and take all the positives out of it. Certainly, what we would be doing anyway on Tuesday night is looking back at the VO, but not just looking at the negatives. You've got to take the positives out. Like you talk about Ken McAvoy's goal there. Sometimes you've just got to applaud it. For all the work you do in the training ground, everything you do, sometimes there's a bit of quality. You've just got to, sometimes you can't defend against it. You've just got to say, kind of well done and dust yourself down and get on with it. But it's ones like that, because they've been such a good run, because obviously we did a decent start, and then we get beat 4-1 last week. Now, there wasn't ever bread and butter getting beat 4-1 with Atherley, but you're always kind of, how's the reaction going to be, and, how they're going to be through training that week. So I think it's probably kind of looking at this week, it'll be massive for them just to try and get that positive reaction straight back on, and try and get the 3 points again and keep themselves within touching distance of Auchinleck.
I think they've got a free week this week by the looks of things, with the Scottish Cup, the Scottish Junior Cup, and the Senior Scottish taking precedent over everything. So I think...
And that's worse. That's worse.
I know.
Because they just want to be getting back out and trying to right a wrong, if you like. So on the back of your defeat, there's nothing worse than having a free week the following week,
Aye. And I said on the show yesterday, PG phoned me for an update at the end. I know it's only 6 games into the season, but I said that if Auchinleck play like that, I can't really see anybody beating them, never mind them winning the league.
Right.
It's maybe a wee bit hyperbolic, but and it is early, because they will go through a down period. Every club does, it's difficult to maintain that level, but they've just been so impressive. I've seen them twice and they've scored 12 goals.
I think as well what they're doing now is they've just put the fear factor into teams before they even come on the park. Teams will be expecting, they'll automatically take a step back. When they would rather possibly be in the front foot. Most weeks they instantly put the fear into you just based on their start. And that's a good thing, certainly from Tucker's point of view, with his team walking onto the park, it was, like, let's go right away, they're full of confidence. And as you say, listen, I'll take a very good team to beat them this year.
Aye, definitely. A really positive result for one team, not so much for the other, was Pollok beating Johnstone Burgh.
Yes.
It was a bit. I bet you if you asked 100 people outside the ground who was going to win, I'd be lucky to find one or two that would have fancied Pollok yesterday, but a great result for Stuart Maxwell and the guys to go and win.
I think one they were probably needing as well. For the point of view, I don't know if Johnson Burgh maybe carrying a wee bit of a hangover, the high you win in the Scottish, and kind of they've lost 3 of their first 5 games now. It's a bit of a shaky start, if you like, for Murdy's point of view, considering what they've got at their disposal.
I don't know if you had the chance to see Murdy's interview after the game. He's quick wee bit that he did, but he didn't look a happy guy. I don't know if you've seen it, but he didn't. He really didn't look happy. And I spoke to one of Greg, one of the coaching staff. He's just saying never done enough. Pollok scored with 2 set pieces, but they need to be so much better. And then also I spoke to Josh Gardner, our good friend, and he was just saying that they actually changed their shape yesterday, Pollok, and a clear game plan. Players deserve huge credit. Carried out what was asked very well. Defensively, thought they were excellent. 2 centre backs were good. He felt they deserved the victory. Shows great character within the dressing room that they can go somewhere like Johnstone Burgh and win. And I think for Pollok with their new squad, victories like that is what you need, because that just brings everybody together and shows that the plan is working, so to speak.
Aye, absolutely. I think as well that you can see there's obviously been a remit needed at Pollok, and Maxie and Josh, they're working towards it. But again, a lot of it as well is, again, maybe a wee bit of kind of that Premier League arrogance, if you like, because it's boys that are coming up for divisions to play, and they're not coming down for the 3rd division in the Lowland League to play in the Premier League. These boys are kind of instantly wrote off. But a lot of these boys will maybe have a wee point to prove, to show they can play in that league. And listen, hats off to them. It's a massive result. I would be kind of more concerned if I was in the Johnstone Burgh camp than the Pollok camp.
Especially if Craig just mentioned there, they've only scored 5 goals in the first 5 games. For a team with as much firepower as they've got at the top end of the park, that's a really surprising statistic. Aye,
absolutely. Because when we were at the Ants, we used to train next to Johnstone Burgh, just at Nether Craigs. And when you see them in the training, the shooting drills, the drill, everything they've done, we played them in a couple of friendly and stuff as well. And you just expect, it's one of the ones again, there's expectancy now, at Johnstone Burgh, when you've got the squad, you've won the Scottish, obviously Clydebank doing what they done last year. I think a lot of people, certainly maybe within the camp or fans at Johnstone Burgh would have been going, right, okay, this is our year. This is our year for this now. And as I said, listen, there could be that wee bit of a kind of hangover, such a high you winning the Scottish Cup and going, right, okay, we need to get back in and get going again. And it just doesn't seem to have, the wheels don't seem to have started moving yet.
I think the biggest, one of the biggest curses in football, I think, is the curse of supposed to. Like, you're supposed to win. And it can really affect teams, I think. And people think that football's easy. You just put the best team on the park and you win. But we know that never happens. If that happens, if you look at teams on paper, Johnstone Burgh win the league with 50 points, in terms of what they've got on the field. But
absolutely, yeah.
It just doesn't happen, and Liam's just saying there that they're too inconsistent. And I think that's something that they'll be working really hard to iron out, Murdy and the guys, and I'm sure they will. But you just hope that they don't leave it too late. A bit like Auchinleck maybe did last year. They started slow and then they finished like a train, and you just don't want to fall into that same trap. But anyway, moving on. Great result for Pollok, Maxie and the guys. So congratulations to them. Another one that I was a bit taken aback by was Renfrew beating Hurlford 4-0.
I think that's a bit of a sore one for Hurlford, especially after the result last week against Johnstone Burgh. I think they'd have been like, right, okay, let's go and kick on here, and it looks a bit of a sore one for them. But no, listen, fair play to Renfrew, coming up and this year and getting the 3 points at home and a clean sheet's massive for them, certainly.
No, it's a great way to get your first victory of the season for Jimmy Quigley and his Renfrew team. And we spoke to him on the phone last week, and he used a very interesting phrase, because I asked him about this season, like what was the the aims, etc. And he just replied very simply saying, find out which of these boys can play at this level. And it's a great way to look at it. And performances like yesterday will probably make them think, well, maybe there is a few in this dressing room that can play at this level, because we know how difficult a team Hurlford are. We know how well Darren Henderson sets the team up. They've had a good start to the season, and to beat them 4-0, that's really impressive. So that will give a lot of confidence to Jimmy and the boys at Renfrew.
And I think it is a bit of a strange season, obviously, now with the change and stuff like that, and no relegation, and it is difficult just to gauge your players' characters. You know, when they don't expect to be a top 8 team and they're not getting relegated, you know, it's probably difficult really to gauge the character of them. Mm-hmm. But listen, all the managers in the Premier League will not be expecting that either. You know, they'll be looking to say, like, you know, can we get top 8? Can we throw a run together? You know, let's go and see what we can do, because I think it'll be, you know, there will be ones that will just fall away. There'll be a gap at the bottom. You'll have that kind of 4 or 5 to the top, but there will be that kind of 6 or 7 teams probably going that flip-flop really throughout the season to say, right, how can we get into that top 8? And it'll be quite interesting, I think, in all the leagues, really, to see how it all pans out, you know, towards the end.
You're right. And I think we saw that last year. There was a few instances, I think, off the top of my head in the Premier League, we spoke about Cumnock as potential relegation candidates, and then they went on a run towards the end of the season and ended up finishing 9th, 10th, 8th, run about there. So it can happen. And I suppose it's just about keeping the positivity around the place and keeping them going. But again, it's another one for Hurlford to bounce back after a disappointing result. But I'm sure they will. Really good result for Glenafton, coming from 2-0 down to beat Beath 3-2.
Yeah,
I'm sure, Johnny, you've been on both sides of that, being 2-0 up and losing, and being 2-0 down and winning. It's for Glenafton, it's and so have I, to be fair. For Glenafton, it's an unbelievable feeling, but for Michael Dunlop and Beath, it's a horrible feeling.
It's just so deflating. And a result that probably Beath could have been doing with that kind of 3 points. And at that point in time, when you're 2-0 up, it's always that, knowing that even with 20 minutes to go, that one goal just swings the full momentum the other way. So it's a difficult one. Sore one for Mick. Obviously, I've been speaking to him quite a bit over the last week or so. And obviously, he's his own plans. I don't really think he's managed to get his own stamp on it yet there. So hopefully he's given the time to do that, and I'm sure he'll turn it around.
It's going to take time. Unfortunately, that now leaves him. Now, Johnny, hold fire, because we've had a few people that have asked over the couple of weeks saying it'd be good if we could get the league tables up on the screen, right? So I'm going to try, and we'll see if this works. And if it doesn't, then we'll go back to the drawing board. But I've put my best IT hat on, and we'll see if we can get the league tables up on the screen. So I know we can't quite see the bottom because of the ticker. But if we look at that, then we're looking at Beath sitting bottom of the league, unfortunately. But I know it doesn't matter because of the context of the season. They are playing next week in the Premier League. They play Atherley, and again, like we said, a win next week when your rivals are idle could move them up to 9th and potentially 10th in the league.
Absolutely, and I think we're in the position this week as well. I think there's only 4 games in our league. I think 3 are playing in the kind of Senior Scottish Cup as well. So listen, there's no guarantees, but if you manage to go and get the points on the board, I'd always rather have points on the board than games in hand.
Of course. A team I'm a bit surprised at, given the start to the season so far, St Cadoc's. I thought they would be doing a wee bit better than they are. Rutherglen, I did fancy Rutherglen to have a good season this year, but sitting up in 8th position, it's probably as good as the guys at Rutherglen could have hoped for from a start to the Premier League. Yeah, and I think it's really good to see Ryan Carlin doing well as well. They signed Ryan from Larkhall. He brought down for a penalty yesterday and scored again yesterday. Playing in a kind of unorthodox position for him, really, just off the left, but I think he's chipped in with quite a few goals already. I think he was Larkhall's top scorer last year for the middle of the park as well. So, pleasing to see. I watched the highlights of that this morning, that game, and he seems to be kind of just stepped up and
chipping in really well for them. So no, that's pleasing to see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Shots drawn. See, for me, Johnny, I don't know about you, but shots they seem to draw a lot of games. That they've drawn 3 of their first 5. They were 2-0 up yesterday. Get pegged back to 2 each. They just seem to draw a lot of games. I don't know what you think, but I
think that'll be a sore one for John as well. I know John really well. I played with John at Cowdenbeath many years ago, and I've always kind of kept good contact with John. He'll be sick probably about that, especially being 2 up away from home, and then kind of throwing it away. Because obviously last year they went in such a strong run towards the end of the season. And don't get me wrong, obviously there was the points deduction for Gap, Cairn and Darvel, but you've been give yourself a target to hit, and they managed to get to keep themselves up in the league. And again, when you look at the kind of fluctuation, I suppose, in budgets between the division, I would suggest that shots are towards the kind of lower echelons of that. So I think that last season, certainly even when they took them up, punching above their weight at times, but just continually seem to always get there and be up where it needs to be. And I'm sure they'll do fine. Listen, there's a lot of hard-working managers whose phones don't stop. I wouldn't like to pay John McCune's phone bill, put it like that.
No, I think it's the same for managers up and down the leagues, to be honest, Johnny. It's people say it's another full-time job, but it's actually not, because it's more than a full-time job if you actually calculate the hours and the time that you spend working on things and watching things and phoning people, and you're up on a Sunday and you're talking to people, and Saturday nights you're talking to people. It's like a 24/7 job, never mind full-time.
Aye, there's a lot of peacifying goes on in my house. The dog gets some amount of walks on a Saturday night just so I can talk on the phone.
I miss having my dog, because that's what you do. You get the dog out, make phone calls, and talk to people and stuff like that. But it's such a difficult job, and especially in that Premier League, because you are trying to compete. You look at budgets wise, you look at teams like maybe Shots and Renfrew, etc., Rutherglen. Then you're trying to compete with these teams with vastly superior budgets. You've got to really wheel and deal. It's the old Harry Redknapp stuff, isn't it? Wheeling and dealing, trying to get boys in. And then, as Jimmy Quigley said, seeing if they can play at this level, and you don't know that until you bring them up and you let them do it. Yeah,
and again, there's a lot of boys that do step up, and there will be. As I said, I look at the kind of the 3rd division. I look at 2nd division, and probably up to the kind of top 5 or 6 in the 1st division. I don't think there's a lot between it. But then you crank it to the Premier League. And I think the top 5 in the 1st division in the Premier League, I think there is quite a bit of a gulf then becomes, between the teams, when the games to do with, I certainly noticed it last week when we played against Atherley, a lot to do with the kind of their physicality and just the wee drops of quality. We are in Healy, he'd keep a blue naffy in a telephone box. You know what I mean? He was absolutely different class. He's actually too good for the Premier League. I would go out on a limb and say that he should be playing a lot higher than that, definitely.
Speaking about Atherley, they had a bit of a sore one yesterday. Quite a heavy defeat, 5-3 to Largs. Largs got a good result last week against Pollok, and then I think just keeping that momentum going, because I think they probably didn't have the start to the season early on that Stuart Davison and his team would have wanted, but that's now 2 in the bounce, so it's just about getting that momentum back. I know that when they played Pollok last week, he said that they changed a few things and it's obviously worked, so they've obviously found a wee formula, and it's got them a good result yesterday against Atherley.
I had a fantastic season last year, so we want to kick that on and keep it rolling.
Yeah, and then the final game, Drumchapel scored very late on, 90 plus minutes against.
Yeah, I've seen that.
To get a draw, I know. And Craig was just telling me there that Troon don't play this weekend, but Troon play Drumchapel in 2 weeks' time, so that'll be a cracker.
Yeah, I definitely. I think Swifty Again, just a bit of an inconsistent start they've had as well. Kind of 1-2, drew 2, lost 2. Kind of keep a wee close eye on that. What John Craig that plays with him, his twin brother Brady plays for WOSFL, so always kind of keep a wee eye on the coming results there. So yep. I actually thought Swifty would do a good job in there. He seems to have done a decent job wherever he's been. So no, hopefully.
Again, it's just a wee bit of inconsistency. I think early doors in the season, and you can get that because it's early in the season. You've got things like holidays and injuries and all, and you've got new signings and all that kind of thing. But that's them played 6. They've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2. It's just that you just want to get a wee run going. And as I said, they finished last season so strong. I was really keen to see if that would then carry on into this season, but it just looks as if that wee inconsistency is still there.
And I think it is such an intense period at the start of the season. Realistically, you're back for pre-season, so you're trying to play kind of 2 games a week pre-season to make sure the guys get as many minutes as they can. And then from our point of view, because we've been drawn in the first round of all the cups, I think between July the 26th and this Saturday, we'll have played 8 competitive games. So it is quite, full on, and I'm just kind of saying, just looking forward now. That's the midweek games down, just getting back into a bit of normality. Your 2 training nights and playing on a Saturday, and the holidays hopefully finished. But the modern day footballer, it's fucking bar mitzvahs and baby showers and knows what they miss football for these days. So, So it has been quite. We've carried a bigger squad certainly through pre-season than we will carry for the rest of the season, which will probably happen over the next few weeks. A few boys will maybe move on to us, but I did make that conscious decision that through July and August we would carry a bigger squad to allow us, kind of to still utilise and have that depth in games when boys are on holiday. And listen, it is what it is. The season starts so early. July, August, guys work when their wives and families are off work, so you've got to accommodate as best you can.
Yeah, no, you do, and unfortunately, it's just as you said, it's just changed days. Okay, we'll move on into the first division, Johnny. I think game of the day probably for me was Gartcairn against Thornywood at the top end of the table. Gartcairn coming away 2-0 winners. I spoke to both managers actually. Adam Coakley from Thornywood just saying he just felt that they've had a really good run. They've had a really tough run of fixtures, and I think he felt that it was maybe just one too many for them, and they've just kind of came a cropper a wee bit. He didn't really have any complaints with the result. And then Ryan McStay, the Gartcairn manager, says he thought Thornywood started well, and then they started creating some chances. Kyle Hutton scores a good goal, and then Thornywood tried to play out. They've pressed them, won the ball, and Jordan Moore scored. Second half, he says they should have been out of sight. Their goalies pulled off 3 or 4 good saves. Delighted with 3 points, go top of the league. Probably caught them at a good time because we're missing their 2 best players through other commitments. Good team, but I think both managers are kind of on the same page. But it's a really good start for Ryan McStay and the guys at Gartcairn.
Aye, definitely. A lot of time for Ryan. I think he's kind of very good player. Obviously, him and Peter got a bit of a raw deal a few years back when they were at Shettleston. Given the start they had that year, I think they were absolutely flying in the first division, and Shug decided to move them on, and I replaced them at that point in time, believe it or not. I'd spoke to Adam this morning, and I think he was just a wee bit kind of deflated, really. We played them in pre-season, and I've got a really good relationship with Adam and Thornywood. It was my old club. I played there for 5 years and managed them as well, so I've always kind of got that kind of close affinity there. But I think when we played them pre-season, Ross Forbes was different class.
He wasn't there. He was missing yesterday. That's what they were saying. He was missing, and Paul Donaghy was missing as well.
Right, him and Stuart Carswell, and that was a kind of one conversation I did have with him, because when they took Ross Forbes off, it just seemed to be they didn't know who to play through, really. Everything positive, and that went through him, and I think that was a wee bit of his kind of concern as well at the time. Was the kind of depth within it when they take these guys out. that have we got the depth within the squad and the younger guys coming through that can step up and grab it and take ownership of it. So I knew he was a bit deflated given the start they'd had to the season because they were absolutely flying.
Yeah, and I think he's absolutely right. And sometimes they've had a really tough run and they've come out of it really positively. So he'll probably, once he gets over the deflation of yesterday, and I think he was at a wedding yesterday, so once he gets over the hangover as well, he'll be ready to go next week in training and kind of revitalise him going into the next few weeks. Another team really good result was St Roch's. They're now keep up their 100% record, 4 games, 4 wins for the Rock, beating Whitlets 3-1. Looking really good this season, St Roch's.
Really strong. Again, just another team we played pre-season. We managed to beat them 3-2, but the depth of their squad and their physicality, I thought, be pretty strong, certainly for the season coming ahead. Kendall does, a really good squad, does his work, gets the players in that he wants. And I think they just fell away at the wrong time last year. They had that kind of period at the wrong point, and I think with the 4th place been available, they're probably kicking themselves even a bit more now, because I think it was probably around about March, April time that they started to hit a wee bit of a lull and just drop, say silly points, but drop points that you say they should be winning that thing. Then I think it was that would have probably been a bit of a gutter for them when it changed and Broomhill went out the league and the 4 places were there. But no, I think given their fan base, really well supported club, again, very kind of big in the community at Royston, on the Royston Road. So no, listen, I hope they go and get it done and get themselves up this year.
Aye, definitely. I spoke to Graham Neal, the Whitlets manager, again. I really appreciate all the managers getting back to me. I'm always a bit wary about texting managers on a Sunday when they've been beaten on the Saturday, but I just stick my neck out and go for it. If you don't, listen, shy boys don't get any cake, as I always say. So, yeah. But Graham was kind enough to get back to me, and he just says it was a tough day. They lost a goal in the first minute, made it really difficult. Second half, felt they got a good response. Boys are hurting now. Super group and they're together, strive to improve and move forward. He says he's feeling very raw today, as they would be. They're still looking for that first victory, and it's just.
They've come up out of our division last year, and we kind of big Jordan Boyd up front, Moff, kind of Isaac Kerr, Lewis Kirkwood. There's so much experience within the group, and they'll be all right. They'll be fine. They've got plenty of goals in that, so I think
they've got plenty of goals in it, but they just need to tighten it up at the other end, Johnny. That's what's killing them at the minute. They've played 6 and conceded 21 goals. That's over 3 goals a game that they're conceding. So if they can get that organised, which again, I think I spoke about it last week on the show, but I've absolutely every faith in Graham and the coaching staff to work on that.
And that's the thing as well, with them being promoted, you just know that level when you got the half chances teams take now. And I think that'll be the thing, every wee error or every wee mistake now when you're going up the divisions, teams are going to take them and be punished.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Great result for Vale of Clyde, for John Hughes' boys, coming from 2-0 down to beat Darvel 4-3. I spoke to John this morning. He says he felt other teams had been dead and buried at 2-0 down, so they actually went 3-2 up, and then they made it 3-3 with 4 minutes to go, and then Vale of Clyde scored in the 89th minute to win the game 4-3. He says he felt some of the younger players were maybe a bit spooked by the first 20 minutes, but they showed great character to go and get the win. That's when you see that kind of pattern of a game, he'll take a lot of heart from that result.
Absolutely. I don't know what to think of Darvel now. I don't know where they're going, really. They played against good friends with Stephen McGurgan, the Lanark manager, and he was speaking. Obviously, they were 3-0 up against them with kind of 10 minutes to go. He came back and drew 3 each, and I think obviously some of the results have been a bit wild, really. First game of the season, I think they took you a bit of hiding off with Thornwood as well. So I don't know really what they think of Darvel at the minute or where they're going. But no, it's a massive result for Vale of Clyde, certainly, and John there. So again, I think they're probably one of the clubs that will be kind of flipping about that kind of that 8th place to try and get themselves into that top 8. they've got a decent opportunity to do that.
Aye, I think so too. I think you look at that top 8. I think you could probably say, I don't know, maybe stick my neck in a line here, but looking at the way it looks just now, I would say Gartcairn, St Roch's, Irvine Meadow probably nailed on for 3 of the 8 spots. I would say Thorneywood as well would be one for me, but then I think after that you're kind of looking at much of a muchness, to be honest.
I think it was a big win for Rob Roy yesterday as well.
Really big.
I think Gibby was probably needing one of them to give themselves that wee jolt up the league. I think they kind of struggled a wee bit last year. And I don't think
then they finished the season really well, and I think me and a lot of guys that get, especially guys on the show, etc., expecting them to maybe kick on this year, and it's just not quite happened for them yet.
The ones that have come down, obviously, kind of looking at some of the results yesterday, a big one for them, and one I didn't really see was Bemba, but I didn't see where that one came from either, that result yesterday for them.
That was really good. It's just typical, isn't it, Johnny? It happens all the time when managers leave, and then you should always back the team that's just lost a manager the following week, because for some weird reason in football, things like that happen, and Davey Winters and Robbie Winters.
Davey and Robbie will be sitting scratching their head going, how did that happen?
I know it's madness, but again, that's football, to be honest, and it's just I suppose it's why we love it. But Kilbirnie will be disappointed sitting down in 13th, won 1 game out of 5. I would have expected. Well, I would think that the expectations for Kilbirnie would have been top 8. Minimum, so I know it's early days. Like a 1 win puts you right up there, up to 5th or 6th or whatever, so it's no panic stations, but 1 win in 5 is maybe not where they want to be.
And a good result for Nielsen as well yesterday, playing against Muirkirk. Obviously the 2 teams getting promoted from our division last year. Good to see Del McNabb still scoring goals, but I've been actually I'm really impressed with kind of Muirkirk. Considering where it is, it's not really an area where many players I know they train in Glasgow and things like that. I think Ross Cusick's done an absolutely great job there. When we played against them last year, they've just really fit group. Keep going to the end. I would like to hazard a guess that, and if you were looking at the goals scored within the last kind of 5-10 minutes of games last year in their division, they would have been out the park with it. And I know he's made kind of good addition signing Ali Taylor, and he's certainly hit the ground running for them. A couple of draws, a win, so I think he'll be actually really happy with their start, going up where they are. And listen, every opportunity to, as I said, just could somebody put a run together at some point in the season and go and kick themselves up there, but maybe not been fancied to do so.
I spoke to Ross about the game. He just says he felt they were good first half. Failed to take the lead on a couple of occasions, fell behind just right on half time, which I felt was a bit harsh. Second half, they get the goal, have a good spell without taking advantage. After 65 minutes, Nielsen score, and they lost their composure a wee bit, didn't really look like getting back into it, which was a real frustration for us as a coaching team. Poorest performance of the season so far. Ross was always good and honest and upfront with his comments, but he'll be looking to bounce back. But it's sitting there in 9th position. It's been a strong start for the season, given the fact that they did come up. Now, you said you're friends with the lineup manager. How's things going down there? Because obviously there was a big upheaval in the summer.
Stephen was my number 2 last year at Bellshill, and then when the opportunity came up to be a number 1, he's went and kind of grabbed it. Great opportunity for him. I think he'll do great. Really works hard at it. He brought in a lot of youth into his squad. I think the game, as you said, in every game they've been competitive. He said apart from the Nielsen game. He said the Nielsen game, he gets sent off. He was playing himself. He get 2 bookings and get sent off. And then I think they made all their changes and made that player get injured towards the end. He says, so really that game is the one that, fair enough, I took a bit of hiding, but every other game they've been there or thereabouts in them. Obviously another 3 each draw yesterday against Petershill. They drew 3 each with Darvel. So I think he's just looking to get that monkey off the back, really, and kick on. A lot of youth within the squad. I think obviously he's trying to kind of get a wee bit more experience within the group if he can. But no, I think, listen, he'll do okay. I think it was a difficult, really difficult job to go into as your first managerial job, considering the exodus, if you like. Kind of obviously Darrell went, kind of their full spine really. Willie Muir went to Auchinleck, Mark McGinty went to Royal Albert, and we signed Graham Gracie from there. So kind of that felt was a kind of the spine and a lot of kind of experience in there. So that would have been difficult for him. But no, listen, I think Stephen he'll do well there. Brian McKinven and him as well. Brian's kind of really under 20s. His Lark Hall team at under 20s were excellent. So I think that's been a lot to do with who they've been getting in. They've kind of went to that kind of market as well. So no, I think they'll do okay.
Yeah, good. I hope they do, because like you say, there's a difficult job getting in there. Right, okay, Johnny, we'll move on into the second division, and we might as well start with Bellshill. So fantastic start to the season for you. You've obviously been in there about 18 months, is that right? Is that kind of fair?
No, January this year.
Right.
So just
sorry, I was a year ahead. So I remember when you left St Anthony's to go into Bellshill, there was maybe a couple of raised eyebrows around the leagues, maybe incorrectly, but just people like myself that don't have the full picture and just make it up as we go along. But what attracted you to Bellshill and led to you making that move?
Mm-hmm. I'd obviously been I've been a manager really since I was 29. I took over at Thornawood. My dad was actually the manager there, and it was myself and Kieran McGuinness and Kevin O'Neill took over there, and we kind of went for the I think, can you remember when it was old central divisions, and then there was a Super League and the Super First and that type of thing. So kind of from the time when my dad was there, we kind of went for the second division, then I kind of took over in the first, and then we kind of took us up again into the there. And then just do everything, kids taking over, and just couldn't really get the full commitment at that point in time. And came in about a few other clubs, kind of managed at St Roch's, Shettleston, New Mains, and then my boy signed with Livingston. So at that point in time, I'd been out of the game really for about 3 years, due to kind of 3 nights a week through at Almond Vale and all that stuff. So when the Ants job came up, I'd kind of spoke to Martin. I'd always kept my eye in, and kind of was helping a wee bit actually with Bellshill's 20s and their recruitment and stuff like that, and took the Ants job. Again, just an ideal opportunity to get back in. No budget, just you come in, do what you do, and do it. And to be honest with you, we had a great group there, an absolute great bunch of boys. I think 10 of them are now playing with Yoka, but they were a great bunch. But when the Bellshill opportunity came up, I had my best time there as a player. I loved it. My first real junior club. I left Cowdenbeath, signed there, and we had a great team, great group really at the time. Tommy Coyne was the manager. We won the first division up to the Premier League, and then kind of for about 10 years or so, the club just fell away really. Just no park, the home park ended up getting sold to home builders, and again just became a bit nomadic, if you like, playing out of Vela Clay, Blantyre, Cambuslang, the sports centre in Bellshill. And when the club got the chance to get one of the grass council pitches and back in the community, that was really the start of the club being able to try and change their fortunes a wee bit more. Over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, we've got a full academy now. Moss End Boys Club come in beside us as well. So we're the only boys club as well in the town. So it's good to see. We're everything from Fund 4s all the way to over 35s. We've got an 18s and a 20s now affiliated with the first team. And the opportunity really to go and take up my local team really, where I had the time to play. I know kind of most of what was going on really at the club as well, where they were wanting to go, the fan base, everything. And remembering as well, before I took over, Neil and Dean, it took the club to 2 quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup, they took over a team who were kind of towards the bottom of the third division and managed to get them promoted at the start of last season, and just through kind of just a kind of form start, the guys decided to kind of walk away, and I could see the potential there. And listen, if you don't believe in yourself that you can go in somewhere and turn that around, there wouldn't be any point doing anything. We've not done anything yet. Our job was to stay in the division last year when we took over. It was a bit of a kind of relegation fight. So we took over, I think, the 14 games. We lost 4 out of the 14 at the tail end of the season. Made a few changes, brought in a few players that really helped us. Paddy Queen, Jack Campbell, Jamie McVeigh, Jack Main for Rob Roy. And that really made a big difference to us, just adding that back quality. And in the summer, recruitment's been excellent, I can say, and it's really helped that the club have backed us to go, because their aspirations are the same as mine. I'd love to be able to take the club back to the Premier League where it was when I was playing myself, and I know it's no easy, but the opportunity this year to try and let that top 8 place gets you promoted, I think it would have been foolish not to have a right go at it. And listen, my aim's to win the league. It was my aim to win the league when I took over at St Anthony's. If you're in it, no in it to win it, what's the point type thing? So really where the club is at the minute, it's in a fantastic place. As I said, I think mainly been back in the community, in real community feel. Everybody's bought into it. The sponsors are buying into it as well. Our social media presence is where, that a lot of the sponsors are wanting to step in and help and back us. And at the start of the season, it is what it is. Listen, we've won the games that have came up in front of us. We've not played anybody in the top 6 yet, but again, you can only beat what's in front of you. So that's all we'll continue to try and do. So we've got a tough one this week against Cambuslang.
You've obviously made a bit of a splash, if you like, this week, bringing in Callum Graham for Beath.
Yes.
Good of you to do that just right on when you were coming on the show, so thanks for that. And you've obviously got Graham Gracie, PJ O'Donnell still with you as well. So you've got real presence in the front area. But was that when you're saying that you're wanting to get to the Premier League, which is great, and win the league, etc., it must be really encouraging that you're able to go and get players of Callum Graham's quality and bring them into the club?
Absolutely. Listen, when I seen him transfer listed this week, I just kind of took a screenshot of it and threw it into the committee's group chat, if you like. But the conversations with him, he's a local boy, good friends with John Barr that plays with us, proven goal scorer. And I think that was something certainly our chairman, David Brown, has always been big on. Why are the local boys leaving here to go elsewhere to play? And there's been a number of reasons over the year. Obviously, the division the team's in, where it's been, things like that. But I think after conversations with Callum, he could really see what the club's doing and what we're trying to do. And I think from his point of view as well, he's wanting to try and win something or do something with his local club. When we did speak, the one thing he did say is that he didn't want to go back to Ayrshire just due to travelling and his work and things like that. So that kind of helped us out a wee bit as well, because there was a lot of interest for some of the clubs down there. And yeah, when the club said, yeah, we can do it, a lot of support. And if you believe half the numbers that get flung about this week, it's been quite funny.
Oh, listen, it's one of the most enjoyable things at my level, at this level, is all that chat. I think it's amazing. It's great when you've got players, when you've got rumours that they've paid X amount and it's like, who cares? Who cares? See if you guys are in a fortunate enough position to go and get a player of that quality. Who cares? It's just jealousy, really, to be honest, because they would all be delighted if their own club. I know I would be if my club was to go and buy players of that quality. So, who cares? It always gets inflated, but it's just laughable, to be honest. It's good. He held it was 10 grand, 10 grand and £400 a week.
Wow.
So, but I see he scored yesterday. A really good result
nice.
away to Lark Hall. That must have pleased you.
He scored one and set one up. Considering he hadn't trained this week, it was really pleasing for him to come in and do that. It just makes him kind of settle nice and quick, really. Probably from his point of view as well, kind of all the chatter this week coming for that league down to us, that type of thing. So probably just settles him a wee bit. The game was a bit kind of scrappy, really, the first half. I never felt we were in any real danger. But it's just kind of getting that first goal and getting yourself over the line. So Graham Gracie, he got brought down for a penalty and PJ scored it. And then in the second half, we kind of managed to just kind of crank it up a wee bit. Graham scored. Kieran Markey scored an absolute cracker as well. And then Callum scored the fourth one. Probably the biggest frustration was the kind of sloppy goal we conceded at the end. But again, being picky, I couldn't really ask any more of the group at this point in time. Really, they've been absolutely fantastic and are buying into everything we're asking them to do. So, listen, great start. That's all it is, I suppose. But have you that?
I think how you keep beating the ground.
I think probably one of the pleasing things as well is that 4 of the 6 have been away from home. We've been to. And we're notoriously not a great side on Astro, but our first 2 games were at Cali Locos and then at Stepford. Kind of two difficult kind of places. Well, Petersall's fine, that new one, but Stepford's leaves a lot to be desired, the surface, shall I say. But again, just going there. I think
going to Greenock and winning 4-1 was really impressive for me.
Aye, and again, just one of the games. Typical day in Greenock, sunny, raining, windy, 4 seasons in one day, and again just one of the games we go 1-0 up and then kind of lose a sloppy goal, manage to get in at half time 2-1 up, and again it's just one of the ones, the games in the balance type thing. But listen, the reason we signed Graham Gracie was causing the tight moments and the big opportunities in games. He's ice cold, and he scored the 2 goals in the second half to make us win 4-1. So he scored 7 goals in 6 games. So we knew what we were getting when we were signing him. We kind of done our homework before we brought him in. That he would be just the right fit, right character for what we are wanting, and he's been excellent. And then Maryhill, kind of beat Maryhill 3-1. I think Maryhill will be up the top this year. I think their firepower and their wide men are absolutely brilliant. I think Mark's done a great job there with his recruitment and what he's getting. And he's certainly got a lot of depth now within the squad. And another big result for them. I think they've scored 17 goals in 3 games. But I think they'll be thereabouts.
Aye, they did a really good result away to Kilsyth. I actually spoke to Mark, which this will give you a laugh. So he said good steady performance, totally controlled the game. They got a man sent off, which then it's funny, they kind of made them desperate to try and get a goal, forced too many long balls, settled second half, created loads. But no clean sheet means that the boys need to run on Monday.
Oh well.
So I mean, I love it. I love it, to be fair. But it's a good example, I suppose, of how much you've got to value that defensive work.
Yeah. Listen, I say it to our guys: if we keep a clean sheet, we'll win. I think we've got enough firepower. We'll score goals, and I'd back us to score against anybody. And that is just the work we do. We probably do more work on the training ground without the ball than we do with it. So we're just trying to do the hard yards when we press, where to be, and certainly the importance of defending set pieces. So there's so many games won and lost with corners or free kicks going into a box.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, and it's an interesting division right now because you've got 4 teams sitting up there undefeated. 3 for a really good result yesterday, beating Cambuslang 4-0. Who you guys play Cambuslang next, don't you, as well? And really good result for Ross Wilson and the boys at Blantyre who beat Thorn 1-0.
Yeah, I'd seen Cambuslang earlier in the year. I went to watch a Cambuslang and Larkhall game, and I thought middle to front Cambuslang were excellent. They signed with Dan Jarvie as well for Mary Hill, and he was the one that was kind of orchestrating things. And they've obviously got Carlos up front, who just scores goals. Big physical presence there as well, but they are just susceptible to conceding goals. And we had somebody down at 3 yesterday watching the game, and kind of very much the same. Kind of look always a threat when they're coming forward. Cambuslang, but he was very impressed with Reeve.
We played them last week, and I was really impressed with them, to be honest. I thought they were really good. I spoke to David Watt, the Thorn manager, and he was just saying that first 15 minutes was a bit end-to-end. Blantyre scored for a set piece. Difficult one to take. I thought they were the better team, but just need to do a wee bit better at the top end of the pitch. It's interesting, Johnny, because I spoke to David last week as well, and he was saying the same kind of thing when they drew with Bonneton, just a bit struggling to break teams down. And I think as you move up the levels, it becomes more difficult.
It was the one thing I thought about Thorn. I'd watched a bit of their early highlights of some of their games in the season, and they just look like they can score against anybody, really. But they were missing a lot of big chances. I watched I don't know if you'd seen the highlights of their game against Mary Hill. They had a lot of big chances in that game there. And then obviously John won each day to Bonneton last week as well at home. I think Blantyre have signed really well. I think Ross has done a great job with recruitment, a lot of experience in the group. Weedaw in the middle of the park as well, facing Rocks is a great addition for them. So I think there's a lot of kind of old dogs in that team, if you like, that just know how to get the job done. And that will stand them certainly in good stead. As I said, right now, the weather's been good. The parks are nice and pretty. I think the games will change, and some results will start to change when we get round about kind of October, November time.
Yeah, and that's when you might need those guys. I spoke to, just kind of running around the division quickly, I spoke to Gary Fleming, Greenock manager. They beat Ashfield 3-0. Said first half they didn't play well enough. They obviously had a wee chat at half time. Used it as an opportunity to reset, move the ball better, move it quicker, be patient. They did that well, and they blew away Ashfield in the second half. Next week, they'll be able to wait to the second half to turn up because they play Mary Hill, who are on a great run of form. So, sounds as if there was just a wee bit, maybe they thought going to Ashfield, they are struggling a wee bit this season, it was going to be easy, and maybe just needed to make sure that they stay honest and up to their work.
Aye, absolutely. When we played Ashfield, I think the second game, and they had a threat, the lad Finlay on the wing, J. Stevenson, and then obviously they brought in wee Joe Bradley, Sean Grady, and I thought, they're going to kind of maybe kick on. I said that I fancied them to get a result today against Mary Hill, and Mary Hill beat them 8-0. So I know. But that was the week they'd signed the guys there. It's just a difficult period really for Peter and the guys at Ashfield. But no, listen, I think Greenock I've had a pretty steady start really coming up. I think the 2 games they've lost, I think they're probably disappointed losing to ourselves and losing to Thorn at home. But for a team being promoted, I think they'll be fine. They've got a lot to do, a lot going on their side. Yeah,
I spoke to Aaron Cornley, Kilsyth Athletic. They drew 2 each with Maybole. Maybole were 2-0 up after 7 minutes, and then missed a penalty as well to go 3-0 up. Boys rallied well, dominated the ball, frustrated they hadn't won it, but they didn't create enough clear-cut chances. Still feels early in their journey as a group, and that's reflective of inconsistency. Pleased how they reacted to adversity, cut out the sloppy goals they conceded. It's criminal, but I suppose it sounds as if it's funny because obviously I'm connected to Maybole, and you could probably say the exact same thing for us at Maybole just now.
Yeah.
Where we're at in terms of the journey for those 2 teams.
Yeah, it's just difficult, isn't it? Sometimes again, one coming up and one coming down, and I suppose it's that expectation. Sometimes when you come down, people expect you to be bouncing straight back up, but you never know what you're coming down with. You never know what the group looks like. Who's going to stay there, and it is, you do see it so often. You can look at kind of Wisha, I suppose, Craig Mark, kind of back-to-back relegations. Cambuslang are in this league now, but they went back-to-back as well. Sometimes it is difficult to come down to kind of, if you keep the same group, to stem the flow, because they're in that defeatist mindset a wee bit. So no, it is difficult. Bellshill Athletic, again, just a team I don't really know enough about. Really never really come up against them. Obviously, we'll play them this year. But again, just another one that's playing out a kind of sports centre that I would like to see the end of, basically, in the west of Scotland. But that's another debate.
No, I know. Listen, I'm probably in the same boat as you with that one, Johnny. To be fair, I'm old school, like yourself. So, and then just finally, I spoke to Bonnet and Coach Ian Waite. They drew one each with Cali Locos, who obviously Danny Boyle left the club. If you were watching last week, you would have got that scoop 3 or 4 days earlier than they did on social media, thanks to my well-placed sources. But he just says both goals came from mistakes. In the first third, they were caught out playing out from the goalie. I actually seen the highlight of it. Didn't make great watching if you're interested in defence. But it just felt yesterday there wasn't really much to talk about in that game. So an interesting one for Cali Locos getting a point after Danny leaving and Bonnet and kind of hanging about. Right, we'll crack on into the third division, Johnny, just because we're running on time. Listen, that's always the way. I just start talking, and then before you know it, you're an hour into the show and you've still got 2 divisions to cover, and I always feel bad. I'm thinking one week I'm going to try and get a third or fourth division manager on in the next week or so, and we'll maybe start with that division, because I feel that the lower divisions get shortchanged by me because we end up talking so much. We'll run through the third division. Ardea, really good result for Ardea, I thought, beating Glasgow Persia. I spoke to Sean Kenny, just said it was a really good performance. They had a really good result last week, beating Punferston 7-0. So they've obviously carried that on. They should have been more than 2-0 up at half time. Persia defenders were bodies in the line at times. Made a change at half time. It's a bit more end to end. Really good performance. 4 unbeaten now, because they had a wee bit of an iffy start, Ardea, but as Sean says, that's them now 4 unbeaten. Yeah,
I think they'll be probably in the same boat, kind of very close. They were very close with Greenock, weren't they, for that kind of 4th spot. So I think again, just want to keep that momentum going and keep it rolling and find themselves up there and try and get themselves promoted this year. Good guys, actually. We played against them a wee friendly at the tail end of the season, so we got a good bit of a laugh with them on the touchline and that. So they're a good bunch. So I hope they go and do okay.
Mm-hmm. I am. Me too. Sean's a good lad. I like him a lot. So fingers crossed they can do the business. Dalry continued a great start to the season, beating Glasgow United 4-3. Chris Wilson, the Dalry manager, just said they lost a poor goalkeeping error after 10 minutes, went in at half-time 2-1 up after a decent performance. David Templeton then scores a screamer to make it 2 each, and then they go ahead 3-2. Then they get a man sent off. United threw the kitchen sink at them. Free kick from Templeton on 90 minutes, back off the post. Goodwillie scores a rebound, makes it 3 each. 12 minutes of injury time due to a clash of heads. They were under severe pressure, but they break up the pitch, and Jamie Catlow scores a 20-yarder into the top corner for a victory. Delighted with that, especially with 10 men at a tough venue. Templeton outstanding for them. So even you hear stuff like that, it's just amazing. Like, what a game that must have been to watch, but a great result for Chris Wilson and the boys at Dalry.
And especially to win it like that, conceding so late to make it 3 each, and then being under pressure and getting back up the park and scoring the winner. I think especially playing against Glasgow United as well, you sometimes think maybe some of the boys, when they see, Temps, Goodwillie, Big Effie, Ambrose, boys like that, they might be a wee bit intimidated, kind of, these guys have been at this level and things like that. But listen, fair play. They don't seem to be kind of setting the hell on fire, unfortunately. Glasgow United, but no, a great result for Dalry. I thought it was a really good result for Easterhouse yesterday. Actually, going to Kello, getting the point, especially they beat Threave last week as well in the south of Scotland. I thought that was a good point for them, kind of going to Kello on the back end of that result last week as well.
Yeah, I was interested. I didn't know whether, a bit like yourselves, maybe Threave shuffled the pack a wee bit because of the cup or whatever. But that's not to take anything away from Andy and the guys at Easterhouse, because it was a fantastic result. But as you said, both promoted teams, Kello sitting in 6th and Easterhouse in 9th, a really good result. I thought Port Glasgow and our team get promoted last year. I think everybody that you speak to would fancy them to be up the top end of the table, beating Glenville 4-1. Great result for Tam Jameson and the guys at Port Glasgow.
And a bit I saw the result again. Kind of obviously affinity with the guys at St Anthony's. It was a sore result for them on Friday night, getting beat 3-0 with Glasgow Uni. They just don't seem to be getting out of the bit really now this season. A real big kind of changeover in players since Monty's come in.
I know, and then they did a really good result last week when they drew 2 each with Craig Mark, who are obviously at the top end of the table. So they were maybe hoping to carry that momentum,
and I think they were 2-0 up. They were 2-0 up as well.
Aye.
I think that was probably a sickener for them as well, you know.
Aye, and then going to Airdrie and the Friday night, Glasgow Uni obviously looking to bounce back after getting beat soundly from Dalry 2 weeks ago. So they continue their strong start to the season, and if they keep this up, they'll be well on course for one of those top 8 spots. And just finally, just touching on Knightswood, again spoke to Michael Pender, he just says entertaining game for the neutral. They conceded a penalty 5 minutes in, which he felt was soft, responded well, found an equaliser. Remainder of the first half was pretty scrappy, changed the shape at half time. Started the second half well. The Knightswood got a man sent off after 60 minutes. Had to play the last 30 with 10 men. Felt they're the better team, but poor defending saw them concede an equaliser. Missing a few key players with illness and injury, and it showed. Sort of pick up 2 draws in a row from winning positions, but couldn't have asked more for the boys last 30. Really gave it everything. It's one of those ones where you're really disappointed that you've again they've dropped points from winning positions, Knightswood, but it's maybe when you look back on and go, right, okay, well, maybe we'll just chalk that up.
Aye, and for that, I don't know, for that, just a bit of a strange one. I expected them to be kind of up thereabouts this season. Listen, I know it's only 5 games in. Not going to write anybody off, certainly at this point in the season. But I think Knightswood, kind of really done really well last year. And again, just them. Port Glasgow, up there as well. Actually, the 4 that came up are looking really good. Actually, they've seemed to have started the season very well.
Yeah, I think so, and I think they'll. I don't know. I would fancy them probably to be. I would fancy the 4 that came up to be in the top 8. I don't know about you, Johnny, but I really would, because I think Easterhouse are a good side. Kello don't, as I've said many times, they don't lose a lot of games. They'll draw a few, but they won't lose a lot. We know Port Glasgow and Knightswood are strong. I would fancy all 4 of them to be in the top 8. What do you think?
Aye, because I think Kello's a difficult place to go and win as well. Again, I think Easterhouse. I think that with their academy there as well, their 20s, everything coming through. I think they've got a good opportunity there. Certainly go and bounce again, which would be great, really. I know they're obviously there in Ashfield, they're out there as well. But it would be good to see kind of somebody take full ownership. I know I'm kind of badgering on about these kind of the pitches and stuff, but I think when the teams come up, I think fine. Every team's got to start somewhere. It's just been allowed to go and develop these parks and make them your own, really. Again, just I say, maybe I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I like that old feeling of junior ground when you go into it. A bit of traditionalist, maybe.
Aye. No, I get where you're coming from, and I tend to probably agree. I do think that clubs should have to have a plan in place, if that makes sense. So you get it, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'm not saying that they don't. It's I don't know the ins and outs of every club, obviously, but it's I know that teams like Knightswood have got plans and things like that to get set up, and I think I saw something about Thorn having plans to redevelop their ground and things like that, which is amazing.
That looks great.
And I know all these things cost money, and it costs a lot of money, and money's tight all around the world. But I'm like you. I like these old I like going to an old-fashioned junior ground. Even if it's got an Astro, so somewhere like Cumnock or Ardrossan, that's got that AstroTurf surface, but still got the feel of a junior ground.
And to be fair, Rob Roy's new pitches at a new setup's excellent. That's certainly got that wee feel with the two stands in it and things like that, quite enclosed down at Rob Roy.
Aye, mind you, it only took about 747 years for them to actually build the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's it seemed that it was when I first forayed into the juniors, as it was known at the time. It seemed like Rob Roy were talking about building that new park. So it's good to see them finally get it up and running.
Absolutely.
Right, okay, we'll get into the fourth division finally. BSC, great result for them beating Gifford. What a start to the season compared to where they were a year ago. They were in absolute disarray. Almost, I don't want to use that phrase. I'm going to say laughable. That's probably a bit harsh, but no far off it in terms of where they were last year in terms of conceding goals, etc. But spoke to Barry McColgan and he just said they had a slow start. Gifford had more chances. They got level just before half time, started strong second half. We tweaked tactics, went to press, and did the trick, got more control, scored from a rebound off a free kick, and again, good forward play from Lewis Smith. 4 goals and 6 for him. He'll probably not thank me for naming him, given the fact that he's maybe got other teams coming to look at him, but sat in the last 10 and won the game. But unbelievable turnaround by Barry and the guys at BSC.
Aye, absolutely. As you said, it's one of the ones you see you don't like to tar them with a brush, if you like, but I suppose you look at kind of the start Campbelltown's had, it'd be that type of result, kind of them coming and flinging in that kind of result at the minute. But no, listen, a fantastic result. And fair play to the guys for the turnaround.
Yep, and top of the table just now, sitting similar to yourselves at Bellshill, Johnny. Pollok, Thomas Devine has done a great job, and at Pollok, I spoke to both managers actually. Again, I was wary of texting Kenny, but he was kind enough to get back to me. He just said he was pleased with the performance. He feels like they're getting back to where they were last season, with boys coming back from injuries and holidays. Missed a couple of chances. Pollok scored. Were only shot in the first half. Second half, more even. Pollok scored a good goal, and they've done everything bar score. 13, they only 13 yesterday, plus 2 trialists. Couldn't fault the attitude. Nice comments for Thomas and the boys at Pollok, and I did speak to Thomas Devine as well, which I was keen to get in touch with him. And he was just saying that delighted with 3 points, felt it was a stuffy game. St. Peter started the better, so he's kind of echoing what Kenny said there. Second half, he felt they had a bit more control. He said it was never comfortable though. St. Peter's were always a threat, really close game. Wee bit more experience on our side probably turned the game in our favour, and they go into the senior Scottish next week. But Thomas, great start to the season for Pollok.
Great job. Sid's down there. He's recruited really well. He signed an ex-player of mine and a good mate, actually, Gary Stewart. Just proving goals. Nicky Prentice as well, a couple of lads for Kilsyth Rangers, and they've got a bit of experience there. Robert Girdwood, Chrissy Owen. I think he's added that wee bit of quality, certainly in the final third of the park, which is helping them. What a start! Great start.
Yeah, I think so. And in terms of St. Peter's, it sounds like, I know Kenny's still looking for that first win of the season, but he's remaining positive that they can challenge for that top 8.
And as I said, it is very early. Always try and kind of look back.
I know, but we love to overreact, though, Johnny. That's what we do.
It's one of the ones as well. I kind of look back on it as well, and you say, right, well, last season in the second division, I think Muirkirk played 7, won 7, and didn't win the league. I know they get promoted, but when you break it down into that, it's always kind of, it's difficult to kind of make a judgment call on anybody so early. But no, listen, I think St. Peter's will be kind of plodding away, try to keep chipping away at it and get themselves just done. It's one of the ones, I think, the longer it goes, the more the more a monkey it feels on the back. You know, when's this win coming, and the nervousness kicks in even when you go ahead in games. You know, you're going, oh, can we hang on? Can we get over the line here and get the 3 points? And I think it's always, you know, you get that first one and then the shoulders tend to come down a wee bit and you start to play away a wee bit more freedom. So hopefully the guys manage to get that turned around and get that first 3 points.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we had a similar situation yesterday talking to George and the boys at Maybole when we missed the penalty to go 3-0 up. It's weird because you're already 2-0 up, you miss a penalty to go 3-0 up, but then that seems to knock the stuffing out you a wee bit, which is weird just because you're maybe get that nervousness waiting for trying to get that first win.
Yeah, absolutely. And at 3-0, you know, you kind of probably deflate them. You know, the opposition, 2, they still feel they're in it. If you get that third one, it kind of knocks the stuffing out them a wee bit. It does. I think certainly kind of before at Bellshill that was the case last year at the start of the season. I think it was 7 games or 8 games before that first win, and it's just the longer it goes on, you know, it starts to kind of eat away at you a wee bit. You know, God, when's this one coming? That type of thing. And right now, what kind of conversation I had with the coaching staff as well was just there was a wee bit kind of at the start of the game yesterday, the first kind of 15-20 minutes, and it's as if, you know, there's a wee bit maybe in name, a wee bit going, oh, when's the bubble going to burst type thing, and then they grab the game with the scruff of the neck and go, no, you know, let's go and get the job done type thing. But listen, it's no doubt. Listen, we know there'll be a rockier time to come in the season. That's a certainty. It's just how we kind of take our way through it.
A team on the going in the right direction anyway is Connor Whitelaw and the guys at Royal Albert. They did a good 3-2 win away to WOSFL. I know they didn't have the best start to the season, but they're kind of finding a good gear now. I spoke to Connor. He just said that really pleased with the result, but they're missing a lot of chances. But I tried to make him feel a bit better by saying at least you're creating them. You know, it'd be worse if you didn't look like scoring, but it is because I think you always feel when you're missing chances. Again, this is one of these things that guys that have been in football for years, when you're standing at the side as a manager or a coach and your team's missing chance after chance, you're just waiting to get stung.
Aye, absolutely. And listen, as you say, you've seen it 100 times. But no, listen, we've got a really good relationship with Connor at Royal Albert. He's got a couple of our boys on loan there, a couple of our 20s lads, young Jamie McClellan and Caelan McGrath. Caelan scored for them last week, the equaliser against Eglinton. So that we're trying to kind of, again, just have the relationships with the guys and to go. But mate, listen, he's recruited well. You know, a lot of experience. You know, Sparky, Big Nickel, Kieran Brannan. Real strong, experienced spine within the group. Maybe Mark Kyle, again, being about, scores goals. I think they've got more than enough. They should, with that group and that experience, I think they should be pushing top 8. Should be pushing higher, actually. I think they should be looking to finish themselves in that top 4 if they can. I
agree completely. Wishaw, again, probably really couple of really difficult seasons for Wishaw the last couple of years, but they've started this season well. 1-1 against Vale Leaving. I think that's a really good result. Vale Leaving obviously coming down, but I think that's a really positive result for the guys at Wishaw.
Aye, absolutely. And it was young Rhys Witherspoon, who's on loan from ourselves at Wishaw, who scored for them yesterday. Again, there's strong links there with both clubs. Nearly Rowett, ex-manager, is kind of head of recruitment, if you want to call it, or kind of helping them with bring players in and doing the stuff in the background there. So it was pleasing that Rhys went there. Rhys came in from our 20s last year into the first team, scored a few big goals, but just kind of picked up a few injuries and needed a kind of run of games, if you like. So really pleased for him to go in there and get that goal. And I'd still get Big Jarvie scoring at 105, scoring goals for them last week. So no, listen, I hope they do well for Big Neely and the boys down there.
I think it's a bit like what we spoke about with BSC. You just don't want to see any team struggle. You know, you want to see improvement. You want everybody to be competitive. You know, I think is the best way to put it. So it's good to see that's the tide starting to turn for them a wee bit.
They went kind of 3 relegations. I think they went the first second, third. They went down 3 years in the bounce, and it's so difficult when Alec Young was at the club. I know Alec was on the committee there, and he'd done so much for them, raising, with the fundraisers, their speakers nights, their advertising boards, even the maintenance round about the place. Wasn't it too long ago that Wishaw were in the Scottish Cup semi-final? And Big John, my dad and Alec were there. John McEwen then went in with Chris McGrory, Davy Dunn, and that, they were up playing in the first division and competing. Not just kind of there for the sake of, they're doing well. So to see the kind of fall was, it's a hard one to watch. Considering, I know so many guys that kind of been kind of through the club and been at the club, and obviously Big Neely's there at the minute. I'd certainly like to see them kind of their fortunes turn and they can get themselves springboarded, hopefully back up into that next division.
It's an interesting one. The management team, Paul Wright, it's Kilmarnock striker, and I know Alan Robertson's in there as well, who was at Kilmarnock for donkeys. It's a strange appointment, I think, just given. I don't know. I think base and stuff. I don't know what the connection is. Maybe somebody can educate me. But
Martin O'Neill, who came in as manager after David Dunn, he played with Paul Wright. So he came in basically as Martin's kind of coaching staff. With a change kind of upstairs, if you like. Martin took over as kind of general manager in the running of the club, and Paul, when that stepped in as manager. I think the best thing they've done is get Neil Rowett involved, because he knows the area, he knows the community, he knows the boys. He can go and attract and bring them in. Whereas I'm not so sure that Bunyan is doing that, kind of on the phone, actively looking and trying to bring boys in, and knows the marketplace, if you like. Whereas Neely's been involved with 20s teams here at Forth, at Larkhall, at Bellshill, kind of invested in it a wee bit more. So I think that I listen again. If Neely can get the players in and Paul Wright can get them playing, then great. And can get them to where they need to be. But no speaker like any manager in a position. They're trying their best to do what they can do, but I don't know. Maybe with the location and the attraction. Getting boys in, it's been the proof's in the pudding.
And it's going all right. It started well. I mean, from where they were last couple of seasons, it's going well. Okay, Johnny. Well, listen, we had one game in the Scottish Junior Cup over the weekend. Yoker on Friday night. Yoker beats Sunnybank 3-2. You get anything for me on that? Because I don't.
It's a good result.
I know. I'm being facetious, like me, big words, but
Ethan Pryor, who played with us at St Anthony's, scored 2. So no doubt he'd have been like a shot pigeon last night, lying in a corner somewhere. So
it's a good result for Yoker. It's a fantastic result for them.
Listen, delighted. A lot of great boys in there, and I really hope they do well. There's actually. There's about 3 or 4 of them shouldn't be playing in the 3rd division. Mm-hmm. Kind of the big Keir McNair's just away from Pollok, down there on loan. Mark McKillop, Kyle Bunch, just to name a few. Really good lads,
Yeah, but a good result. So that'll round us up to this evening, Johnny. Listen, thanks very much for your time, mate. I really appreciate you giving up an hour and 25 minutes on a Sunday evening to come and talk football with me. I appreciate it.
No, listen, thanks for getting us on. As I said, it was obviously we'd listened to the podcast a few times. I spoke to PG as well. Just I know a few of the guys on the podcast don't really know much about the club. So listen, it was good for us to give a wee bit kind of knowledge of where we are, what we're trying to do, and what the club's doing for the community.
Mm-hmm. No, it was great. It was great to find out a bit about Bellshill and the plans and what's happening there. And big shout out to everybody that's been watching and contributed. Your comments, questions, everything is always much appreciated. We really appreciate your engagement throughout. We've actually got one comment here from William, Johnny, just saying, what a job you're doing. Keep it going, and he'll personally pay for a statue outside Rockburn for you.
That'll be a big statue for this heat.
If you keep winning games, it might get even bigger.
Nah.
But listen, thanks to everybody that's been watching. Remember, if you're rewatching this on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the Pyramid Promotions channel. If you're listening on audio form, please make sure you download the episode and rate and review on all good podcast networks. Hey, Johnny, value for money in the west of Scotland, 144 goals in 37 league games over the weekend. Average is just under 4 goals a game. I saw 7 at Auchinleck, and I was definitely get value for my tenner. So if you're looking for value for money, dig out a tenner, go and watch your local West of Scotland Football League team, because they'll definitely appreciate it. Big shout out to our sponsors, Roxburgh Insurance Brokers, VSN Sport and GLA Chauffeurs. Just a quick note, next week and the week after, I am prior engaged on Sundays. I've got a big birthday coming up, so I've got a couple of weekends of celebrations. So I'm out on each Sunday. So we will be recording on Monday evening, same time, 7 o'clock. So that'll be next Monday and the Monday after. So fingers crossed you can join us, but don't be messaging me saying, where are you on Sunday? Because I'll probably be knee deep in a vodka and lemonade somewhere, to be honest. But really enjoyed this, Johnny. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Again. Yeah, no. So I've been Johnny Baillie. He's been Johnny Fallon. Thanks very much to everybody that's been watching. Until next Monday, take care of yourselves and each other. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.